Hey everyone, Paige here with The Paige Show. So I'm getting a lot of questions about how do you stay positive in times like these. People are coming and they're talking about how exhausted they are feeling from just the last year and a half of all of the craziness. I wouldn't even have to list it all. I'm sure if you're a listener, no matter where you are in the world, you can understand what I mean by that. And people are just feeling discouraged. I think as human nature, we all handle things differently, and some things are easier than others depending on your personality, your experience, your background, how you view the world and your story. And I think as a whole, though, just being human in this human experience, that it eventually takes a toll on you. So maybe you were really, really strong in the beginning and you're just now getting worn down. Some people broke down in the beginning and they're, spent the last year and a half rebuilding from that. And we are just struggling with the same thing, but maybe at different times in the story. But what I am feeling more collectively now is the questions of why. We've gone through all of this stuff. We've come out of some of it. We're still in some of it. But the fog is clearing enough where people are starting to have the patience and the awareness to ask why versus just survive. We've kind of been treading water, and now we're upset. We're angry. Some of us are more than that. And we're just, kind of fed up. We want to know why. We need answers from God, divine, whatever you go to for enlightenment. And so I'm hearing all of that. But not only am I hearing it, I'm feeling it. I'm sensing it as well. I'm right there with you. We are all in this together. I talk about that a lot on this show. And so as a listener or just somebody in my personal life or my spiritual business, we all are connected. You connect with each other on these, wavelengths that maybe you never even see. You can have one interaction with someone and there's that tie that's still there, seen or unseen. And so it builds this collective energy of experiences that you then start to look at and say, maybe we all are actually in the same boat. You finally have the epiphany, right? That separation doesn't really separate. And so when I start to hear all of this, I have that awareness as well. And the first thing that comes to me is really, control. I talk about the illusion of control a lot, and I think that can apply to simple things. You're like, oh yeah, that's true, I can let that go. But when it really comes to hard things, it can feel hard to apply that illusion of control. But all of this really comes down to control, and I was asking Spirit about it and was kind of getting the download of, if we really look through history, everything that's been beautiful or painful or a little bit of both, it really has started with someone in control. So you can apply this to wherever you are in the world listening, whoever is in control of your life per se, because sometimes it feels like we are not. You look at the leadership in the world, in different countries. Here in the US for sure is a good example to look at, and I won't get into all of that, but if we look at that, it's always been almost a leader or a person, some control factor that steps in and says, this isn't working, but the only way it's going to work is if we do it my way. Well, we also know that doesn't work because we're a collective. So nothing is going to work perfectly for all of us the same way. And so there you are. The history of humanity and the world's problems. One person says there's a problem, but I can fix it, and all of you listen to me. And here we are, the rest of us, saying we're going to revolt from that because what you're saying does not work for me. There's a lot of people who say it does, but you have to remember there's a lot of people who will say it doesn't. And so we're in this, tug of war is a good image of people agreeing and wanting to help the higher ups control, and people revolting, saying, no, we're not going to go that way. We don't feel like this is going to work for us. And then we have this push and pull. So anytime you're in the push and pull, you're going to feel that, when you're feeling angry and upset and mad at the world and, yelling at the dog and you can't figure out, why you wake up grumpy. It's really because we just exist in a world where it's always being made aware to us that there's a sense of control, whether it's a boss or, again, watching the news or your own partnerships, families, relationships. Everyone, whether they try to or not, will exert some verbalization of control or action of control, because we're all just trying to ultimately what? Control what's going on around us. Because we think we can control it, we could have the answer, our answer might work, and there we go. If we could fix it, we could just do this and we could fix it. But we all know if it were that easy, we wouldn't have the problems that are going on. So what really came to me is just that image of the tower again. And instead of thinking everything that's happening to us right now is new, this is just happening to us, nothing's ever happened like this before, I would encourage you first to look to history. Okay, people want to throw history aside and they want to get angry about what happened throughout history, and rightfully so for many, many issues, especially ones that have come up in the last year or so, which have been century-old problems, right? But we can use history. If we use it correctly, we can use it to educate ourselves, learn, and ultimately change the outcome when we see these repetitive cycles occur again. It's no different than your personal life, what I talk about with especially my coaching clients. When something keeps coming up in your life, or you feel like you're going around that same mountain, you identify it and you release it and you keep working through it. And when it comes back around, you identify what piece of that still had hold on you, and you work through it and you release it, and you keep spiraling up around the mountain as you're going. To do that, you're facing it each time. You're not ignoring it, and you're going up. And the key is that the whole time you're still elevating. You're still going up. You think about going around a mountain, the road just keeps spiraling up. You're still getting higher every time, even though you may feel like you're coming to that same point. So history can do the same for us. If we acknowledge it like that, we can say, okay, history is showing us that this problem was never resolved. It's coming back to us. It's screaming for attention. And instead of saying we're being attacked, maybe we're being shaped to shed our old beliefs or the way that we were to act about that in the past, to change it. So we're being taught basically to shift it. We're giving another chance to shift it. So we're not under attack. We're giving an opportunity here to change the outcome. Okay? Shift what we didn't like about that, or about the history of whatever that is. And it was really, against the normal asking permission and following rules, and everything that the download really came from was kind of going against what is ingrained in us. So we are taught from a little child, you got to listen and follow the rules and ask permission. And then we get to a state where we are in humanity right now, and we think the rules are bad. Well, it's not the rule that's bad necessarily, but it's the fact that we focused on the rule. So we've lost sight of why the rule was in place to begin with. So an example, everyone can recognize this, I'm sure, is you don't touch the stove or you're going to get burned. So we don't go out there and just take away all the stoves from everyone. We don't say stoves are bad and no one's going to be allowed to have them anymore. We put a rule in place that said, hey, we know from experience if we touch that stove when it's hot, you're going to get burned and you're going to get hurt. And so the rule is don't touch it, right? But it's not that we focus on, okay, how many ways can we eliminate this from being a possibility to touch, by taking away the stove. That's not the solution. The solution is for everyone to get a grasp on their own self, right? Have self-awareness have appreciation for others. What's going to happen if you touch that stove? What's the ripple effect? You're going to get burned, but who else is going to get hurt? If it's a child, the parent is suffering. They're upset the child didn't listen, and they're upset that their child is hurt. And then you go to the doctor and you're taking up doctor's time of something that could be much more important, especially with what we're dealing with in the world now, and so on and so on. You can think about the ripple effect, right? We don't stop enough to think about that what we do or don't do really is affecting so many other people. So again, not focusing on the rule as much as what's the outcome that we don't want, and how can we achieve that in a way that doesn't mean we're going to eliminate all the stoves and take away the stoves from the people who know not to touch them. But what else can we do to make that work? And so when you start to look at that, you feel less attacked, you feel less under pressure, and you honestly can start to see the world from a different view, which gives you, I guarantee you, more peace than you could have right now if you don't have a concept of that. And right now we need more peace than ever. And so the other part of the rule, being taught we've got to follow these rules and the rule, but not really the reasoning behind the rule, is then we're taught we have to have permission to proceed. And that leads into a permission to proceed into everything in life, right? Unless you are a rebel to begin with, if you are caught under these conditions, the conditioning that happens, like all of us, if you are part of that and you have a heart to help or a heart to do right, and it's easy for you not to just rebel on everything, you really can get caught in that cycle of asking permission for everything. And when you see that as a child, that's great. But when we're talking about adulthood now, you have then given over your right, your control, for lack of a better word, of your own personal space and life, and your mind of choice. You've given that over to whoever at the time you're allowing to influence, control over you. Okay, whatever that is, whoever that is, you then start to give permission over to areas and authorities that don't need your permission, and you don't need their permission. That's even bigger. You don't need their permission. And so again, looking through history, you can start to reshape your life on how you don't want that to happen. It doesn't mean just everybody, humanity's history. Look at your own personal life and history where you've given up control, where you've lost it, where somebody's exerted their own control over you. And if you start to look at those areas, not with shame, but with the fact that, okay, I see that now, but I'm still spiraling up. I'm still getting elevated in the mind. So all this is another lesson that's going to elevate me higher. Okay, look at everything like that. Then you can start to reshape your life and see the results that you want. And when we start to get results in a time that is so stressful, like what a lot of people are feeling right now in the world, you can start to wake up with more peace. You can have restful sleep. You can go to sleep with more peace. And you can start to feel like, even though the world feels crazy, you don't have to feel crazy. You don't have to be crazy, right? Because there will always be crazy. There's enough crazy for everyone. If we cannot contribute to the crazy, then that's going to be great, right? And trust me, I have my own times where I contribute to the crazy. We all do. But I'm sure when those times happen, if overall you try to be a very emotional, stable person and control your own actions and all of that, have a grasp on your own self-awareness, you don't feel as great when you're feeling crazy. Your body feels that. It gives you clues that everything's off kilter. And in a time like now, we just cannot afford to be off kilter. We have to be connected in whatever way you can stay connected. We have to give opportunities a chance to show themselves for what they really are. And we have to look at things that are happening as opportunities, not necessarily everything happening to me that's bad is bad. It feels bad, but can you see if there's an opportunity in that? Is there an opportunity for it to open a different door, or a different belief, or a different shift of awareness about that? And in that opportunity, if we don't taint it as horrible and bad, even when it can be and feels like it, and it is in some instances, we can switch that and we can see Spirit's original purpose. We can allow that purpose to take over, and then that really shows us the true way out, okay? But none of that is about control. It's all about, if you hear the underlying tone of this, it's all about surrendering and shifting belief and awareness around what's happening so that the true way can be shown to us. It's already here, but we can't see it when we're clouded with all the junk. Okay, and if we can stop blaming other outside forces, seen or unseen, for that, and we see it as an opportunity, then we can jump in. We can jump in the river, that flow of energy that's happening whether we see it or not, and we can be a part of that change. The change can happen around us. And I just cannot wait to witness that. I love when I can witness that in my own life. I love when I get feedback from other people and I can witness it in theirs. And as a whole, I can't wait to witness that in the world as things are going to go that way. They have to go that way. I mean, right now we are being pulled back into this deep awareness of everything that we don't want, everything we're wanting to revolt against. But we're being pulled back to be able to have vision for when we